this is Trish, and welcome to Teacher Therapy. Today we have a very special guest named Jessica, and she has recently quit her teacher residency program, and she's going to tell us all about the craziness she endured with students and parents and admin, and just how education is in general. So, Jessica, I'd love to ask people what initially got you interested in becoming a teacher?
So I've always loved working with children. Even when I was a teenager, I would volunteer over the summer at different summer camps. I would do that all throughout college, whether it was in an academic setting or a summer camp setting. And I always had great experiences doing that. And so once I got to my 30s, I thought, I could teach. I could go into the school system and, people in my family are teachers, so I come from a family of it. Like my grandfather was a principal and a teacher. My grandma was a guidance counselor and a teacher. And then on her side, there's a lot of teachers and college professors. So I was used to that.
Awesome. So you joined a teacher residency program, and I kind of came from the same background. I did Teach for America, but I know every program is a little different. So can you just kind of walk us through what a residency program is like?
So for the residency program, and I'm just speaking for this school because I don't know like how others do it, but we started the job around July of 2023, and that's when we get acclimated. We meet the other residents. We have our professional development training on different teaching methodologies, different structures, different ways to be safe with kids, ways to build relationships with kids. And that's really how it went for about, I want to say up until the end of July. Then it was when we went to our selected school post and we met our own admin because it was a whole host of different schools within that network.
Okay. And so do they kind of throw you in the classroom as your own, classroom teacher, or do you do like a cooperative style with other teachers? How does that work?
Oh, you're assigned a mentor teacher, and you also have moments where you are gradually released. I will say that you're not just thrown in because there is a timeline. So around August all the way to October, you're basically observing. You're still, you're what do they call it? Interactively modeling. You're also building relationships with the students. And then you're also circulating around the room, just making sure all the kids are focused in the beginning. Then around, I would say like late October to December, that's when they're like, okay, maybe you could teach the first half of the math lesson or the second half of the ELA lesson or the phonics lesson. Get your feet wet and keep practicing. And that's when you get that feedback.
Okay, interesting. So once you actually started kind of getting your feet wet with the program, what red flags did you start seeing where you're like, this is not what I was expecting?
Oh my God. So I want to say this too. I've worked with 6-year-olds before. This wasn't like my first time working with like kindergarten, first grade. And so I figured, okay, I'm used to that age range. I'm not scared. I can do it. I'll say this, by the grace of God, I'm just happy that I didn't get injured because so many people around me, including my mentor teacher, had to go to the ER, had to wear casts. And this is from like injuries that a 6-year-old caused. And I mean, breaking up fights every day. And I'll be real with you. It got to the point where it almost gave me anxiety to get up into the room and start teaching, not because I hadn't prepared, not because I didn't know the lesson, but because I was worried, like, oh my God, are they going to get into a fight and I'm going to have to break it up and all this stuff? And literally I would have to like pick up kids and like pull them off of each other. One kid had his like hand around another kid's neck trying to like choke, and these are 6-year-olds, and people don't realize, they're like, oh well, how does this happen? It's like our hands are really tied, and then the whole thing of you can't kick a kid out of the room. And I did that a lot, especially like on the days when my mentor teacher couldn't be there for whatever reason and it was just me in the room. I had to do what I had to do. And if I thought, like with my teacher discretion, that, okay, this isn't a safe environment for anybody, I'm kicking you out of the room. Like I would pick them. I'd be like, get out of the room. I would lock the door and I would tell the rest of the kids, do not open that door. And there was one kid in the very beginning, and it's really sad and heartbreaking. And I hate to say this about a child, because he was born into that situation. He's about, at this point, he's 7, but I would say he's mentally ill because he would have moments where he would just go on a rampage, like jumping on the desks, throwing pencils. I'd have to have the kids like turtle shell. My mentor teacher and I would be like shielding them. He'd be throwing sharp pencils across the room. One time he threw a book in my face. I kicked him out of the room because he was a danger to everyone in the room. And the principal at the time, or vice principal at the time, was like, "Oh, why'd you kick him out?" I said, "He hit me in the face with a book." And she went, "Oh," like she didn't want to deal with it. And I'm like, if she had said to me, "Oh no, he's got to be in the room," we would have had words. Like I was like, there's no way. And then it got to the point where the other parents, and rightfully so, because I'm not a parent, but I can, understand if your kid is constantly coming home saying such and such hit me, such and such hit me, and he's really hitting everyone in the class, which is why I kicked him out, because it was an issue. They're like, "Well, what's going on? What can you do?" And, admin's telling us to let them handle it, but then, the parents know us. So they're thinking, "Well, what are you guys doing?" And it's like, our hands are so tied in that situation.
Definitely. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people really don't believe it. And I only ever taught 4th through 8th grade, but I have had so many early education teachers say that these little kids are terrorizing adults and they're genuinely hurting people. And because I mean, even in the comments, sometimes when I posted little shorts on it, people are like, "Oh, like how much damage can a little kid do?" But you
Listen, I have pictures in my phone from that. Like, it's crazy. It just got to the point where they knew they could get away with stuff. They knew that there were not going to be any consequences. Admin might take them for maybe, I don't know, an hour, 45 minutes, maybe. And then they would bring them back and the same stuff would happen. And it's like, at what point do you say, "Okay, listen, this kid either needs to be suspended or expelled," because it's getting crazy. And I don't want to say that it's all the kids, because there were some kids in my class that it pained me to leave because they were actually great kids. And when you have other kids in the room that are just problematic, it robs the other ones of a quality education. And I could see it on their face. Like some of the kids, and they were so astute, even at 6, they would say to me, "Miss Tanner, how come we can't learn? I just want to learn." And it breaks your heart because you're trying to teach the lesson. And it's like, I can't do this. Like, it's too much. And then don't even get me started on your mental and emotional health and the loss of confidence and everything like that. It's just a hot mess.
So I'm kind of curious, did your school have like an organized classroom management system like PBIS or BIST, or what did that look like?
PBIS, it didn't work.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that was supposed to work?
And I'll say this, I was new to like the education field. So I was open to it. Like, okay, PBIS, let me be open before I judge. But after like a month of seeing it, I was like, it's not working. I mean, the kids that are already doing what they're supposed to do, they're going to do that regardless because of how they were raised and because in their household, education is important to them. But the kids who are having issues when it comes to like reading and writing and just understanding like basic fundamentals, and as a result of that, they resort to disruptive behavior, they're going to keep doing that. And that's what happened. Because we had this incentive where like every Friday it was like, a party for the kids that did what they were supposed to do. You had to get a certain amount of points. And what baffled me every time, the kids that acted crazy all week, when it was time for them to like not go to the party and go to like what they would call in-school suspension, they had the nerve to look confused. And I would say to them, "I don't know, like, why do you look confused? I know you're smart. You know why this is happening." Like,
so you were allowed to remove some rewards, like going to parties? Because I remember when I was teaching, they would end up like a parent would complain and we'd have to let the kid go to the party anyway.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start implementing that. I really wouldn't be surprised. But it got to the point where the PBIS system, it's just a joke because it's like, okay, some of them get to go, and then, others, like sometimes admin would be like, well, they learned and it's like, no, they didn't. And so they would go, and then the next day they would do the same stuff. And it's like, at what point do we say no to these kids? And I realized after a while, because I used to take it personally when the kids would like freak out on me and stuff like that, until I saw how they interacted with their parents. Like, this one girl in our class, she talks to her mom any kind of way. Any kind of way. Her mom was supposed to like bring her something from her favorite like fast food restaurant, but she couldn't because I guess she got tied up at work, so she couldn't bring it. She said, okay, after school I'll get it. This girl said to her mother, no, I want it right now. You're going to give it to me right now. And the mom was like, oh, okay, please don't yell at me. Please don't yell at me. I'll bring it now. I'm like, if I had done that to my mom, I would have been on the ground. And I wouldn't have gotten it. Like, my mom would have been like, I can make it, nothing.
So I'm kind of curious too with parents, how did they respond if you called them and let them know their kid was acting crazy? Did they support you?
There was a mixed bag of parents, I will say that. There were the parents like that were super involved, held their child accountable, were really serious about their education. I love those parents. I miss them, Then there were the other sets of parents that I never met, like at all, like, and I was just like, okay. And then there were the others that just straight up didn't care. Like, I would call parents and sometimes I would tell them that sometimes their response would be, well, why are y'all calling me? What, like, you can't handle it, you can't control the kids? And I'm like, you're the parent though, I'm not their parent. Yes, granted, I am their teacher. They're with me for 8 hours a day. But at the end of the day, they go home with you and you have them for a lifetime. And that same girl I told you about that she talked to her mom any kind of way. Her mom actually had the nerve to say, oh, well, maybe it's due to the weather that she's acting like this. Maybe the weather change. I was like, I can't. I just can't. And then some parents, like, it's almost like they didn't want to meet their child's teacher. And granted, I've never been a parent. I'm not a parent yet, but I would want to meet my child's teacher. I remember sometimes I would like insert myself. Like, if I had to walk a kid down, if their parent came to get them early, I'd be like, okay, I haven't met your parent yet. Let me go meet them and introduce. I met one of And this girl like stuck to me like glue. Like, I called her my shadow. So I figured, okay, I need to meet her parent at this point. And her mom, oh, who are you? I'm like, her teacher. Oh, okay. And I'm like, you don't want to know who your child is with for like 8 hours out of the day? Like, okay.
Wow. I'm kind of curious, how did admin support you or not support you? And did your residency program give you guys mentorship when you were struggling, or how did that all work?
Now, I will say this about my residency program. Those who were in charge of the residency, I have no complaints about them because they knew that my particular school wasn't good, but I hadn't like met them and worked with them yet. So they couldn't warn me with the school within that network that I selected, because I was selecting it based off of, okay, my commute, because I took, the metro to work. I was like, okay, this is the quickest commute. Let me pick this one. And my residency director said, oh my God, if I had known you had chosen that school, I would have stopped you. Wow. Because it's one of those things where they know and they're trying to fix it, but it's been going downhill for a while. So they know that it's more than just a year that it's going to take to fix it. But the admin within that actual school, like, a lot of them were unapproachable. Sometimes, like, I would try to say things and they would cut me off, wouldn't let me talk. So as a result, I would just shut down. I'd be like, well, it just is what it is. And then, it was a lot of gaslighting. And this is the other reason I quit too. And people don't realize this. The longer you stay in a toxic environment that makes you feel this big every single day, you start to really believe that you're this small. And, I was going home every day just crying. I was having a lot of health issues in terms of like my gut health. Like right now, I'm like changing how I eat. I was stress eating a lot. I was just going through a lot, like not taking care of myself. And it got to the point where I was looking at this school, this program, like, oh, it's the end all be all. If I don't make it here, I'm a failure. If I can't do this, I'm a failure. It's me. It's something I'm doing wrong. And my residency directors, one of them said, no, you're doing all the things. You're implementing the strategies. But a lot of these kids, they just don't respect teachers. And that's what it is. And it got to the point to where when my mentor teacher would leave, they would while out. And I know what she was trying to do. I don't blame her at all. She was trying to teach them, no, you give her the same energy you give me. And after a while, I was like, listen, if they don't respect me, they're just not going to respect me. No amount of me yelling at them, raising my blood pressure is going to work. So I'm going to choose my mental health and take myself out of it, because even during the winter break, like we got like a 2.5 week break. I was happy about that, but in the back of my mind, I couldn't really enjoy it because I was like, okay, I'm calm right now, I'm good now, but after this, I'm gonna have to go back into that environment.
So I'm kind of curious about other teachers. Were they having some of the same complaints, or did they kind of like, how did that go?
They were having the same complaints. And this is what another thing that made me quit too. Because keep in mind, I'm a resident, but the rest of them are lead teachers. And I'm looking, because my goal was to be a lead teacher by next school year. But then I'm looking around like, they don't treat the lead teachers any better than they treat me. At first I was thinking, oh, it's because I'm a resident. They treated my mentor teacher horribly, and she's one of the strongest teachers there, has like 10 years of experience. She is amazing. And when she got hurt, when she like got her hand, one of the people in admin had the nerve to say to her, oh, well, can't you just push through, take some medication and come in? And she stood her ground. She said no. But the fact that they even did that, it's like, what happened. She got hurt trying to de-escalate a fight.
So I'm kind of curious about the curriculum, because I know first grade, it's like a huge focus on reading. How did that go?
Lord, don't even get me started on that. So they don't allow us to meet the kids where they are. They want us to follow the curriculum. How are we going to do that if these kids, and no offense to the kids, because it's not their fault, but how are we going to do that if they cannot read directions on a warm-up? The warm-up honestly should have been practice writing your name. Write your name 10 times. Or it should have been, okay, let's read for like 10 minutes. Let's practice our reading. Tell me why we had all these like in-class libraries that we set up in the beginning of the year, but we're not allowed to have them read because we got to follow the curriculum. But how can we follow a curriculum if they can't read? And their focus this year was really on math. And I get it, math is important, but here's where reading comes into play. They could not read the word problem. So then they don't know, okay, do I subtract? Do I add? They don't know. Definitely. But then, of course, oh, you got to follow the curriculum. Remember, you got to follow the curriculum. It's like, they're not there yet. It was just a hot mess at times.
So I'm kind of curious, what were some of the personal impacts on your own life and psyche? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but what was that like?
I had no life outside of school. Like, I would get home and maybe eat dinner, eat a snack, watch Netflix, go to bed, rinse, repeat. I had no life. I had no energy. I was very like, it almost puts you in this depressed, morbid state. And I still have friends at that school that I talk to on a daily basis, and they're like, I'm hanging on by a thread. I'm about to quit too. A few of them have quit since I quit. And I don't blame them, because I was looking at their health, and some of them were younger than me. I'm 33. Some of those teachers were in their early 20s, and they were having like anxiety attacks. They were on medication for anxiety already. They had chest pain, had to go to the ER, almost had a nervous breakdown, and admin didn't care. Their whole thing was, oh, if you get sick, like they literally said this to us. And of course, you know me, it went in like one ear out the other. Because if I'm not feeling good, I'm not coming in. I am not coming in. Like, and they were like, oh, well, you know, if you feel sick, you know, just push through, push through. And after a while, you know, people end up having all these health issues. And the way that they get you to stay in that particular program is because the money's good. Like, even as a resident, I can't complain about the money, but I realized, I think, you know, not to be religious, but I think God taught me a lesson that no matter how good the money is, your health is not worth it. It's not worth the money, you know, the money, because once it goes to the therapy sessions, the medication, the ailments, the ER visits, and all that other stuff, is the money good then?
That is such a good point. Yeah, I know. I kind of face that same struggle because there are a lot of issues within teaching, but at least for me, the holidays were amazing. Having like full insurance was great. And I thought my salary was okay, you know, for my station in life. So it was definitely a scary fork in the road. Like, do I want to let go of all of this?
I
But you're
know.
so right. I was miserable.
Because I was like, I can't keep doing this. Because every day I would leave that school, no lie, Trish, I would have a splitting migraine headache every day going home, every day. Because I think my brain knew, okay, you're going home, but you're still going to have to go back there tomorrow. Okay. And then the day that I quit and I went home, I didn't have a headache because my brain knew, oh my gosh, you don't have to go back.
So let's talk about that. Was there a certain event that was a turning point for you where you're like, I got to get out of here? Or was it
Yes.
more just accumulation?
It was I was already planning to leave, like, you know, put in my notice, do it the quote unquote right way. But when I saw that they didn't care about me as a teacher, about the situations they had me in, just basically putting me in a room full of chaos. I was teaching fourth grade because they would have me split. Like, most of the time I was with first grade, but then like certain times of the day I was with fourth grade. And with fourth grade, they were so chill, I could actually teach them. So it was like a relief to go to them. And, you know, we were doing like our classroom novels. So we were reading Harry Potter. I think it was Prisoner of Azkaban or the other one. And I'm in the middle of doing that, you know, not classroom novel with them. I'm teaching. And they interrupt me, but, you know, I have my phone on me, but of course I'm teaching a lesson. I'm not looking at my phone. So one of the admin people comes in, and then sees I'm teaching, shuts the door. And then another one comes in, hey, we need you because we need you to cover this other class, da da da. And it's a class that I know is crazy, and they're crazy with anybody. Like, it's too much. And so as soon as I was walking up the stairs to go to that class, I said, nah, today's going to be my last day. This just shows I was in the middle of teaching and they don't even care. They don't even care that I'm not even getting the development, that I'm not even being set up for success. They just want me to be a babysitter, and I'm not about to go through this anymore.
So was there any kind of like negative repercussions through your residency programs? I know at least when I was in Teach for America, they kind of had, you know, special stipends, and it was through AmeriCorps. So we would get a dishonorable discharge from AmeriCorps if we just quit. And so they had all these things hanging over us. Was it like that at all with yours?
No, thank God. It was still a tough decision because I'll be real, I didn't have anything lined up, but I did have a plan because I still want to teach, but I want to teach English abroad. Right now I'm applying to different like jobs teaching online. So I have a few interviews set up. I already have one that I made it through the third round. So we're getting there. But I was like, what stress do I want to deal with? The stress of a toxic environment or just the stress of being in between jobs? I choose to be in between jobs. I'm not gonna deal with that.
And so it sounds like you feel relief, no looking back, no regrets.
No regrets. Like at one point, like in the first week, I thought, oh my gosh, did I make a mistake? But then when I kept getting like text messages from my friends that are still there, they were like, no, no, you did the right thing. I wish I could quit.
Oh, I hear ya. So I'm kind of curious, what advice would you have for somebody that was in your position and they want to join a residency and they just want to kind of dive into it? What kind of things would you tell them?
Ask the right questions. Don't believe everything admin tells you because they will throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. Like, I can't tell you how many times I got thrown under the bus by admin in front of parents over escalations that got worse after I begged them to take a certain student out of the room because they were a danger to myself and the other students in the room. And then the parents are looking at me, well, what did you do? And admin's like looking, oh, what? And I'm like, you know, I begged you. Are you serious? Like, but then at the same time, they would tell us, oh, don't document. And you see, I'm new to education, but then a few of my teacher friends were like, no, don't listen to them. They'll throw you under the bus, document everything. And admin would be like, oh, you don't need to document that. You don't need to. What are you hiding?
That's crazy. They told
What are
you
you
not
hiding? Like a lot of them try to hide stuff because I remember one of the members of admin, and I hate this woman because she's like the most unapproachable person. She basically said that our location had too many suspensions. So now we got to basically cover it up. But she didn't say cover it up. She said now we have to come up with an alternative, which is in school suspension with the whole PBIS thing that didn't work, but you know, because
Wow.
oh yeah, it's discriminating against Black kids to suspend them or kick them out of the room, but it's like, but they were being disruptive. Oh, but you're criminalizing them and
That's crazy. So did they actually tell you
ridiculous.
that?
Yeah, I even
Wow.
had one resident who I think she quit before me, but I was telling her about the kid that hit me in the face with a book. And I said, he's off. Like, he's very dangerous. And she was like, you shouldn't say that. You know, you're Black too. And I didn't even argue with her because I didn't want to go there because I knew I would. I'm like, I just told you this child hit me in the face with a book and threw sharp pencils across the room. And you're making excuses for him.
That is awful.
Like, no. And
Wow.
it's a lot of gaslighting. Like, it'll make you doubt your own reality. Like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm just going to push through, push through. After a while, you're like, no, I'm not pushing through anything.
I'm glad you realized all of this early because I think what happens is teachers just normalize this and then it does become kind of normal and it should never be
Yeah.
normal.
Because I even had some teachers, well, you know, you got to push through, you got to be, and see, the way that I am, I'm generally not a yelling type person. A lot of people were like, oh, you're too nice. And I'm like, no, I can go. I'm one of those people where I can go there, but I prefer not to. Because for one, I get chest pain, I get headaches when I have to like go there into like fight mode with a child. I don't want to have to do that. Like, yes, you're going to have to tell them no. Yes, you're going to have to be firm. But if I got to get in your face and really like that, I don't want to have to do that every day. Like, it's too much.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think what's
It's too much.
required, it's such an odd position because on the one hand, they want to set up systems that are so-called super nice, but I felt like the secret thing that created was quiet yelling teachers that would have to like really intimidate the kids, but they have to
Yeah.
they're
And if I
not.
got to cuss a kid out, it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
It's time for me to go because I was really getting to that point where I was like, I'm going to end up cussing these kids out. Like, I can't. Like,
And the irony is that if there was just consequences that actually resonated with the kids, we would
yes,
never have to get to that point, right?
yes. And if the teachers were actually like supported,
Mhm.
because the kids were smart. They knew that we weren't supported like that. I've even had kids tell me, well, you can't do anything about it. And you know what? They weren't lying.
So we'll put on our imagination caps. If you got to be the principal of that school and you can make
Oh,
any
God.
changes, what kind of changes would you do if you could do any changes you want?
I don't think I'd ever be a principal of any school because, woo, that's a lot of work. Like, the money's good, but they go through a lot.
They do.
But if I could be a principal, the first thing I would do is I would have consequences. I would bring suspension back, bring back expulsion, bring back in school suspension where it's just you and the teacher in the room and not a bunch of other students. And also, like, if a child hits anybody, do like the private schools do or Montessori, they're out. No, zero tolerance. That would
Definitely.
be me. But because this school allows that, that's why there's so many crazy behaviors.
And so I'm kind of curious. This is a random question, but did you guys have recess and were you able to take away recess? How did that work?
We had recess. I hated recess. Here's why I hated recess. Oh my gosh, because that's when the most fights would happen, outdoor recess. And we weren't allowed to take recess. And here's the bad part about it. As teachers, they told us that we couldn't take it away. But then admin could take it away whenever they wanted to. And I'm like, but we're with these kids the most. What message are you sending them? That we have no authority, we have no power, no autonomy. So you can take it away, but we can't.
Wow.
It's
That's wild.
insane. And that's when the most fights would happen. And it got to the point to where if they acted up, sometimes I would just be like, no, we're having it in the room. You guys are putting your heads down. But Miss Tanner, no, I'm not going through this again. And it wasn't just the boys fighting, it was the girls too, like hair pulling. I mean, it was like reality TV, only 6-year-olds. I'm so serious.
Wow, that is crazy. So you do want to stay in education. What age range would you like to teach?
Definitely elementary. I could do like 6 to 10, but yeah, I'm definitely looking at like schools in Latin America. I've already had a few interviews with different international schools in Mexico for a position next year to teach English. So I'm really excited about that. I made it to the third round for each one. So fingers crossed.
That's exciting. I hope you're able to find something in education because I can tell that you're passionate and articulate and you would be such
Thank
a
you.
blessing for kids. It's just, I hear you though. I think there's so many
Woo!
immensely talented educators that are quickly squeezed out of the system because nobody can tolerate the mayhem for
Yeah,
long.
and it's just too much. It's to the point to where you think, okay, I'm going to end up having health issues if I don't get out of here. And if I have health issues, what good am I to anybody?
Absolutely.
Because you're really no good. You can't be the best like friend, family member, teacher if you're not pouring into your own cup.
Definitely. So I know that some people in the world say that my channel is too negative. So is there anything positive that, you took away from this experience or just even, during that time as a teacher, were there any bright spots at all?
There were. I mean, there were kids that I hated to leave that I still miss to this day. Like, because I didn't tell them I was leaving because I know them. Like, if I had told this one boy in my class that I was leaving, oh my God, that boy would have cried. He wouldn't have gone to aftercare. He would have just like had a meltdown. And he's such a good kid. Like, I was like, oh. And he was like, I'll see you tomorrow, Miss And I was like, oh. And I was like, I wanted to tell him, I wanted to be like, sweetie, come here. Like, I'm not coming back tomorrow. But I know him. He would have gotten so emotional. And
I
some
hear
of
you.
my other, like the ones that were just my shadows, like they would have gotten emotional. And I was like, nah, I can't do that to them.
Yeah, I think it's so important because I know I forget to say it all the time because we do talk so much about the issues, but the saddest thing is that there are wonderful kids and
They're,
wonderful parents and wonderful co-teachers. It's just that the dark spots kind of overshadow the bright spots.
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate this interview. I feel like it gives a realistic picture for what it's like just going into the classroom because I know that some people that have alternative certification programs, they get this experience quickly, but I can't imagine people that spent 4 years and plus a whole student teaching and then they find out the truth about teaching. So
Oh,
it's
I
good to
found
get
out
help.
within like a week. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then
Yeah.
the other part of it too, I do want to say this, the babies that I taught, they, when they were 3 years old, it was 2020, the pandemic.
Yeah.
So they were doing virtual learning.
Yeah.
So a lot of them just sitting in a seat was a challenge. Staying focused was a challenge.
Yeah, I think that that's something we're going to see the ripple effects of for years and years to come.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm curious if people want to contact you or reach out to you, is there anywhere that they can do that?
They can reach out to me on my email. It's tannerjessica@yahoo.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This interview has been awesome. And audience, thank you for watching. If anybody wants to interview with me, you can email me at teachertherapytrish@gmail.com. And if you have any video ideas that you'd like to hear, let us know in the comment section. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again. Bye.